Okay, back today testing out the dripper rig and making some zinc hexacyanoferrate. We have 500 mils of potassium ferric cyanide down at the bottom at 2.5 grams in 500 mils is a weak concentration, and 500 mils of zinc sulfate with 2.5 grams as well. Apparently if you has that stopped dripping? Oh no, there's my drip. It's adding very slowly. The smaller the drips, the better for the size of the nanoparticles apparently. And weaker concentration, instead of going to a molar, will create also smaller nanoparticles than you would. So in this case we want quality over quantity. So far, not too bad. Probably dripping a bit too slow, but it's dripping. Alright, I'll get back when that's done. At least it's automatic. Okay, it's been 2.5 hours. We're at just over 900 mil. Both solutions were 500 each, so that looks like a bit more, and it might be over 1,000 mils there. Maybe the nanoparticles increase the volume of the water. But it's looking good. I had to put a piece of stainless wire down in there today. Yesterday it worked flawlessly. Today it stopped dripping. But the piece of stainless in there seems to get it dripping constantly at not a bad rate. Alright, I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, all done. I think that only took 2.5 hours, and we have not a bad solution. Now the fun part, coming to sieve it. So we're just a smidgen over 1 litre, so the particles do increase the volume slightly somehow. Alright, I'll get back when I've dried and cleaned it. Okay, I'm back. The particles have been sitting in solution for 3.5 hours. Got a pretty good yield down the bottom, but the best ones are still up the top. And what I normally do now is I got a piece of hose and I drain off that liquid into a couple of jars, and then I top it up with distilled water, and I do that about twice to wash it and then filter it. It'd be good to keep the stuff on top there, if you can see it. There's some really fine particles, but I need better filtering to do that. Alright, so I'll be back when I dry it. Okay, I'm back. It's the next day. I ended up letting the particles settle overnight. It's got fresh water in there, cleaning them. To siphon it out, you fill up your little pipe with water, hold your finger on one end, stick it in, and then let your finger off, and you don't have to suck on the pipe. It will self-siphon then. And can you see the little particles all in suspension? That's from adding clean water and giving it a bit of a stir. So I'll probably have to let them settle overnight again. And then I'll repeat the process. I'll siphon off the majority of the liquid, give it another wash, and let it soak and drop and settle down. I'll be back when I harvest them. Okay, I have a second batch running while I'm waiting for the other batch. So I'll have 2 lots. And it sort of drips. Sometimes you have to move that wire up and down, but that gives me a constant drip. And I noticed the frosting, see how it's frosted on one side? It's was washing off, so it's like fake frost. See down the bottom? You can scrape it with your finger, see those marks? So the whole bottle is fake, but it's still working just. Okay, what we have here was my first batch I made. That's ready to just evaporate out. It's been washed, it's just distilled water. This one's the second batch, it's got just distilled water. They sit overnight and it settles down pretty much, and then you just siphon it off. And in there is my new carbon brick, which I'm trying to absorb as much of the zinc hexacyanoferrate as possible. I'm going to do it a few times, so I'll soak it. It's been in there for 5 minutes and it's still bubbling. Then I'll dry it out, and then I'll re-soak it a couple of times to see if it sucks any more in. So that's pretty a dense amount of zinc hexacyanoferrate in demineralized water this time. And might be a better way than trying to filter the stuff out, because you lose a bit in the filter. So this will probably keep a lot more of the nanoparticles. I've weighed the briquette before, and also with the piece of wire added to it. So it's 46 grams without the stainless wire, 49 with the stainless wire, and we'll weigh it after I've absorbed all of the zinc nanoparticles. So it's still sucking it in. This one might be a bit more powerful than the other one, because that was a real diluted solution. This is maximum concentration probably. Some carbon's floating around the top, but that shouldn't really bother because it's going to be mixed in carbon anyway, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. And the self-siphoning hose works great. Just fill it up with water, put your finger on the end, stick it in, not too low, or you suck up all your particles, and just rinse, repeat, do it again. Should be washed enough. You do lose particles because they suck up and float around, but still beats filtering if you've got the time to let it distill and settle out. I'll be back when I've got that done and dried. Okay, the cell's been drying for 4 hours now. It's in this oven outside. The temperature for the day is 38 in the oven, 39. But it's not on, it's just ambient temperature of the weather. So we'll see if the cookie can absorb any more. First we'll stir the nanoparticles, get them going, get them back in suspension. Okay, and not too many bubbles are coming out. Not to say it's going in there. It could be already totally full. I'll leave it overnight, not in the solution, but drying, and then I'll repeat that process tomorrow. I'll leave it in there for 5 minutes now though. There's nothing dripped out of the cell, as you can see in there. That's quite clean. Alright, till tomorrow for our second soaking. I don't think that's soaked, so maybe only does it once. Oh, there is bubbles. Yeah, there they go, look. There's something going on there. Unless the sunlight's reacting to the zinc particles. Alright, I'll get back. Okay, it's been 18 hours since the carbon's been soaked, so it should be pretty dry, so we'll try soaking it again. Oh yeah. So yesterday it wasn't sort of dry enough. It did sort of suck up some, but not as much as it did originally. So we're probably nearly saturated with solution. So I'll let it dry out and we'll weigh it up. I'll leave that in there for 5 minutes. It's a pretty thick solution, highly concentrated. We'll measure how much actually from that batch, because the batches are both the same. So when that dries out, I'll weigh that, and that should be the same amount what was in that one as well. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, I think the cell's ready to soak in some more zinc hexacyanoferrate. The cell's I've had it in the oven for an hour, It's at 35 degrees. I had it drying over 5 days. The first day was 58.14 grams. Then day 4 was 54.94 grams in weight. And day 5, 54.78. And then in the oven there for an hour, it's dropped down to 52.64 grams. And the cell's around about 34 degrees. So I'm pretty sure it's quite dry. Maybe I'll go stir the solution and give it a second soaking, and we'll see what we get. And then I'll dry it and we'll weigh it and see what the total contents of zinc hexacyanoferrate is. Okay, I have the solution mixed up. Oh yeah, it's absorbing. So I'll let it soak in there. Hopefully it's not washing it out. That seems to be sucking in more. So we'll try to saturate this carbon with as much as we can before I test it out. So it actually holds a lot of water and slowly releases it. So the cell was actually 34 degrees or something, so it was warm, so it should be all expanded. Hopefully we can get like a couple of grams or more in there. And that would be the fine particles getting absorbed into it. It's starting to slow down, I think, so I'll leave it for another 5 minutes. Then I'll let it sit for the rest of the day, and then I'll fire up the oven for a couple of hours. Okay, after having the cell in the oven, we sort of have a problem. It's 48.33 and the starting weight was 49.84 grams. So it must have had some water comped in it before, and keeping it in the oven totally dried it out. So I'll submerge that again using the 48.33 as its reference, and there's stuff still in there, the zinc hexacyanoferrate. I also put another piece in and dried it as well before I started soaking it, so that's 52.66, the new cell. So this one will have unknown amount in it, so maybe I should just test this cell anyway. And it's probably a good idea not to put the copper on first. It's tarnished it, or the zinc hexacyanoferrate has coated the stainless steel, so I'm not sure on the conductivity of it now. I'll try it as it is in a cell and see what happens. This other cell's now at 41 charges. It's just had an hour's charge, and we're at 88 milliamp hours, 53 minutes. So it's still holding out. Sort of the power density has sort of slightly dropped. Could be something to do with the membrane. It's just a piece of tracing paper, or maybe the cell's gunking up or something. Same electrolyte. But I noticed the zinc sulfate doesn't climb up the stainless, but it's climbing up the lead. I've soldered that lead there to the plate, so it should be alright, maybe. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, the new cell that's been soaked 4 times in zinc hexacyanoferrate after being dried out in the oven for an hour each time, which ended up weighing less than the original weight of the cell. So obviously the carbon holds moisture, so you're better off heating them up first and drying them completely before doing the test. I've got another one on the go, so to see how much actual zinc hexacyanide can get absorbed into the cell. I've got it just connected to the data logger. It's sitting at 1.137 volts, and I'll give it a first charge. I'll set the monitor, and I don't think it's working. There's no lines coming up. Alright, I'll restart the laptop. It's been giving me issues for a while now. Okay, restarted the laptop. For some reason when I've connected this time, the values were left in here. That's normally blank, so that's weird. I've got it on monitoring, haven't got the charge connected yet. Connecting the charge, it should be 1.6 volts. And connecting now. Alright, we're 124 milliamps, which is a bit low. Could be something to do with the dirty contacts being soiled from the zinc hexacyanoferrate, but they look like they're cleaning up, it's washing off, I guess. So I'll give it about an hour or something, and I'll get back. Okay, the new cell's been on charge for 1 hour, just connecting the charger now. Stop the data logging. And connect the other end. So hopefully it's got a bit more material in it than the other cell. Okay, we're at 1.4, starting 100 milliamp discharge. It's looking about the same as the other cell anyway. I'm not sure how much concentration of zinc hexacyanoferrate it's got in it, since it weighed less after being in the oven than it first started to. So I'll allow this to run and see what happens. Okay, the cell doesn't look like it's performing that well with more zinc hexacyanoferrate in it. It's only 74 milliamp hours, 52 milliwatt hours, 45-minute runtime on an hour's charge. So I might try charging it up longer tomorrow and see if it actually works, or there could be something wrong. Could be, see on the corner, if you can sort of see it, where the stainless steel is connecting, it's got dark patches from when I soaked it and dried it in the oven, so maybe the contacts aren't sort of right, or because I soaked it with distilled water instead of how I made that cell, I put the substance inside the zinc sulfate electrolyte and let it absorb through. Might be different, or less is more in this case. So but the voltage bounced back pretty high, so I'll do 2 hours or 3 hour charge tomorrow and see if it improves. Could just be that. Okay, the cells had 3 hour charge. That's the new one with a bit more zinc hexacyanoferrate in it. Still unknown because it weighed less after I put it in the oven than it originally did. We're at 1.5 volts and dropping, which is a good sign. And starting a 100 milliamp test now. Okay, cell's looking good. After a 3 hour charge, it's holding 1.2 volts. Alright, we'll see how long we get out of it. The other charge for an hour, we only got 74 milliamps out of it, but it may need a longer charge for being a new cell, where the old cell with less of the material, 1 hour, 176, and we're at 41 charges and discharges for that other cell. I'll continue testing the other cell and see how long it actually charges up for and discharges until it dies. But it's actually looking quite good. We're nearly at a minute and we're still above 1.1 volt. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, the 3 hour charge only yielded 1 hour and 51 minutes. 148 milliamp hours and 146 milliwatt hours. So the cell's not quite as good as the first cell for some reason. Maybe the contacts down there, see how it's funny stained. I might wrap a new stainless steel contact around it and see how it goes. could be that, or less zinc hexacyanoferrate is better than more, perhaps. Still unsure, but the voltage bounce back is higher. So I may test it a few more times and see what happens, but yep, I'll be back. Okay, been back again, trying the cell out again on a longer charge, 4-hour charge now at 1.6 volts, and it's holding at 1.5. Have 100 milliamps ready for a load and starting test now. So we'll see if these cells improving or getting worse. There was no bubbling in 4 hours. Maybe slight down there next to the separator and the zinc plate. I've got another one in the drying out in the oven overnight. Originally it started off at 52.66 and I soaked it twice in zinc hexacyanoferrate and left it overnight, and it's 62.81. That's like nearly 10 grams in weight difference. So I'm drying it out in the oven and I'm going to compare the weight overnight to the oven dried. Hopefully that will tell us how much zinc hexacyanoferrate it's got in the cell itself. Maybe, unless it weighs lighter again. It shouldn't, because it was a dry cell. That was that 52 grams was out of the oven for an hour, so hopefully it was dry. Alright, I'll let this run. Okay, the new cell's been in the oven for an hour and cooled off to 70 degrees. And we're weighing in at 53.66. And we started off at 52.66. So we're 1 gram. We have 1 gram of zinc hexacyanoferrate in there. So I'll go submerge it again and see if we can get any more. Okay, the cell still doesn't look like it's performing as good as the other one, but the voltage is bouncing back more. So that may mean that the contacts on the carbon itself aren't quite right. So I might take it off, give it a sanding around those dark locations and see what happens. And there's a yellowing down at the bottom, which may be zinc hexacyanoferrate coming out, perhaps. Still unsure, but the other one doesn't really have that. And it's clean around the contacts, and that one there actually runs a bit better than that one when it's charged for longer. Okay, so we only got 192 milliamp hours, 153 milliwatts, and 1 hour and 56, which wasn't too much more than the other one with 3-hour charge. Alright, I'll change the wire and try again another day. Okay, the cell's had a 37-minute charge at 3 volts to see if it's got a conductivity issue. So I'll increase the voltage because the power might not be going through the cell due to the excess zinc hexacyanoferrate added to it. And we raised the voltage to 1.9 with a half-hour charge at 3 volts, but it is slowly dropping. We've got 100 milliamps again for the load, and starting the test now. Alright, so actually we might not be pumping enough power into the cell, so the dark patches on the... that's changed the colour of the stainless steel that charged just then. It's going a brown, maybe it's clearing off the junk. If it runs good now, I'll swap over that stainless wire on the next run and see what we get with our standard 1.6 volts. That was unusual, seeing the stainless wire. Maybe it's freed up the pores in the cell, because it's looking not too bad. It should have dropped to 1.1 by now. Alright, I'll let that run. And the other cell I got soaking, actually has got about 2 grams and I think it's, I just had it in the oven for a half hour and I dunked it in the solution at 90 degrees and it's not absorbing as much now. So it might be totally saturated at nearly 2 grams of zinc hexacyanoferrate in that carbon. I haven't got stainless wire wrapped around that one, so I'll probably conduct that test in a few days. Alright, I'll be back. Well, that 3-volt charge for a half hour certainly put the cell in its place. It's 2 hour runtime, 202 milliamp hours, 202 milliwatt hours, which is unusual to be equal there, and 0.7 volts still. Average voltage so far is 1 volt, so there you go, something happened. Must just have less resistance than the smaller amount of zinc hexacyanoferrate in it, which is all the difference. Alright, I'll get back. Okay, the cell's doing its oscillating thing. It doesn't get much after 5.3. So it ran for 3 hours and 7 minutes, 310 milliamp hours and 268 milliwatt hours. Average voltage is up, not too bad for a half hour charge at 3 volts. So I'll continue testing and get back. We'll do a voltage recovery. It should go to 1 volt, I think. Yeah, sort of. It's depleted by the looks of it. Okay, we get to play with the cells in series today. I got 2 of the cells connected in series. They've had a half hour charge at 4 volts. And we're going to do a 100 milliamp load. We're at 3.3 volts with 2 connected and holding pretty well. It is dropping, but looks good. So here we go. So we're at 2.9, 100 milliamp load with 2 cells running. Alright, we'll see how long we get. Okay, the dual cell in series is looking good. It's 0.8 volts, 3 hours and 11 minutes, and we're at 320 milliamp hours and 478 milliwatt hours. The milliwatt hours is up because of the voltage is higher due to the 2 cells in series. One cell would go for 3 hours, or the second cell I had the other day did a half hour charge and 3 hour runtime, and that yielded 311 milliamps. So we'll probably be up near 500 maybe. I was thinking it was going to run for 6 hours, but it may not. But it seems to be holding strong at it's going up, it's fluctuating. So maybe 6 hour runtime, so it's like double the 2 cells perhaps. We'll see. It's like 36 degrees out there and I just got home from work and I'm dripping with sweat. Alright, catch you, I'm having a rest. Okay, I'm back. I have the new cell. It's just been in the oven. It's 55 degrees. Started off at 52.66 and it's now 53.09, so it's around about 3.8 grams can go into there. It never really absorbed anymore the other day, unless the stuff burns out when it's in the oven, but it's not up too high. So I'll leave it at that and I'll see how that cell goes. That will make 3 of the cells so far. So we're about 0.38 of a gram of material. And the 2 cells hooked in series, still going, 4 hours and 15 minutes at 0.5 volts, so it's going to run out shortly. And 426 milliamps and 553 milliwatt hours at the moment. Not a bad run. Alright, I'll be back. I need to make another cell so I can put 2 in parallel with these 2. That should look good. Okay, we've made it to the end, 4 hours and 48 minutes, 477 milliamp hours, 581 milliwatt hours, and an average voltage of 1.22. Not too bad for a half hour charge on 2 cells in parallel. So all I have to do now, I've got 3 cells nearly ready. I'll make another one and I'll put 2 in parallel and 2 in series and we'll see what we get. Okay, till then. Okay, just checking the weight of the cell after being outside of the oven for 24 hours. It's 54.23 and when it was in, just came out of the oven at 55 degrees, it was 53.04. So we're about 1 gram heavier today. So it's sucked in 1 gram's worth of moisture from the atmosphere in 24 hours. So the carbon absorbs a bit of moisture from the air. This one's 0.38 grams of zinc hexacyanoferrate in it. So I'll wire it up and put it on another video for that one, and I might make another one. I'll have 4 cells. I'll put 2 in parallel and 2 in series, and we'll see what it does. Alright, thanks for watching.